Hey everybody, I am Scotty J. Welcome back to Rock Titan Live. We've got an awesome guest with us today. We've got a very interesting guest with us today. He represents the kind of music that we've really never featured on Rock Titan Live before. And shame on me, because this guy has had multiple songs that have gone platinum. He's huge. He's had some of the biggest songs in the world. Just go out to YouTube. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but you get a billion views. You kind of get the idea of where we're going. But this guy, he's known as a rocker running in rap circles. You know, he's worked with the likes of Lil Wayne quite at length. But we're going to talk about all this guy has going on and much more. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Rudolf. Kevin, how are you, sir?
Good, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man. Yes, it's a pleasure. And before we get too far into the weeds, I do have to thank Tommy Mars, who we recently had on Rock Titan Live not too long ago. I know he had you on his podcast, and he's a very talented musician himself.
Yep.
Yeah, he just released Chasing Light, his new EP, everybody. So if you haven't checked out Tommy Mars's EP, Chasing Light, go check that out, and then go watch our conversation. But yeah, he gave me a holler the other day. He's like, "Yo, Scott, I just talked to this guy. You may or may not know him. You know, because he knows my flavor of music and what I'm into and whatnot. But Kevin Rudolf." And I'm like, you know, the name sounds familiar, you know. And then I went out and I checked out your music, of course, and Let It Rock. Who the hell hasn't heard that? You know, I mean, of course I was familiar with that. But your career at large, I was not familiar with. Because, again, kind of like we talked about, you walk in those hip-hop circles. You know, even though that's not your whole life, you are a rocker at heart. You know, I always see you playing the guitar. I've seen all your videos and stuff on your social media where you're throwing out a new lick and everything like that, which is very cool. But I guess first thing, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Well, you know.
And thank you for that intro, man. Very, very cool.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm always fired up. But it's very interesting because one of the things I left out of the intro is that this guy, Kevin Rudolf, is so popular, he actually lost the rights to his own name. Now, how does that happen?
I did?
You know, well, what you couldn't use Kevin Rudolf professionally, is that correct?
Oh, yeah, no, that wasn't on some copyright thing. That was a contractual thing. Yeah.
Either way. I mean, you actually, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe you can explain this a little better, because I don't fully understand this. I mean, I know how some bands, you know, trademark, you know, and patent, copyright, all that kind of stuff, all that legalese that enters the music world. But you actually couldn't use Kevin Rudolf, correct?
Yeah, there was a period of time in there, you know, anyone who's been in the major label game, you know, it's not without what would you say? It's bumps and along the road.
You sell your soul.
You sell a piece of it. You know, you do and you don't. You can, you know, get a platform. I've been in and out of a few deals already. It's not my only deal, and if you want to, you know, get in front of the world like the way it was back in the day, now, you know, you can do it with YouTube and Instagram and everything. You can do it yourself. But back in the day, it was like you're in or you're not. You know, you're in the club or you're not. So there was no real choice to just go, I'm going to do it myself and just put my stuff up on YouTube, because it didn't really, you know, have much merit back in the day.
Right on. Now, one of the things I think that's very interesting about you as a musician, because I've never met anyone like you, Kevin. Wow. You start out as a guitar prodigy. You know, I mean, you know, rock and roll is at your heart and soul. I mean, that's what you are. I mean, you're a 14, 15-year-old kid. You're absolutely rocking out, getting all kinds of attention. You ultimately do sign to Maverick. And then, you know, years down the line here, a few years later, you end up getting into that hip-hop world.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
It came from, first of all, you know, I've always been on a musical journey, period, which did start as a guitar player, which did start with rock and roll, which is still the music that is closest to my heart. You know, it's like straight rock and roll is what I like. That's what I listen to. That's what I like. That's like my roots. But having said that, I grew up in New York City, so I was exposed to all kinds of. I'm listening to hip hop and dance music, all this stuff. It's all coming at you, and I think a lot of it for me was a way to gain control over making records. So at the time, to make a rock record, it wasn't really, you need a band, you need a studio, you need a budget, you need a 2-inch tape, you need money, you need all these kinds of things. And this was at the time when you could get a little MIDI set up and start making beats, hip hop stuff. So I was definitely drawn to hip hop from that. And then also being on Maverick and having my first deal and then getting out of it and seeing that side of it, also seeing like the urban world just seemed less somehow less affected by the major label system. If you're like a rock or pop or some kind of artist like that, you're on a label and they're kind of like, okay, here you go, here, they're like talking to you like you're 5 years old and like babying you, and then, I don't know, it just wasn't for me. Like, I like real shit, and that's not real. That's just kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like, I don't want to be like a star, like, pampered and stuff. I just like being my own person, having control. So being behind the scenes in the hip hop world was interesting to me because it was more innovative musically at the time. Like, I liked what was going on in those early 2000s with Timbaland and Neptunes and Dr. Dre and early Kanye West and all that stuff. So that was interesting to me. And I wanted to be a part of it. So I met a guy named Jimmy Douglas, who's still a very, very close friend of mine. He's an engineer who worked on Aretha Franklin when he was 15 up till Timbaland and Aaliyah and Missy Elliott and all that stuff in the early 2000s and on. He's still going now.
Wow.
So we became friendly, and I got into that world, and that's when I moved to Miami. And after a little bit of time in that world, I also realized, like, I got to get back to my roots because these people are trying to make rock records. Timbaland was always he's always like, oh, play guitar, do that trick you do. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'm just playing one, 2, 3 notes. And they're like amazed by it. And I'm like, shit, man, if I could just figure out what they're doing and combine it with what I'm doing, then I got something.
And you were the first artist of your kind that actually signed to that label, yeah? I mean, they'd never even ventured into that world.
No, and it was Lil Wayne was there, Nicki Minaj wasn't there yet, Drake was, all these people weren't there yet. It was a very, very different look to the way it is now, or at least was after that. It was just Wayne, and like it was like a, it was New Orleans, it was hip hop, but it wasn't what you think. They were a priority at Universal, and that's like what was cool because I thought, okay, I'll be on Universal. If this doesn't work out, I'll figure this out. But the irony of it is that Slim ended up being a real champion for my music. He was like the head of Cash Money with Baby, so he was all about it. He's like a real music guy. Like, I bring him, I talk about real shit in my music, and he was just really supportive.
Right on. Now, one of the things, one of the many things at this point, Kevin, that I find very interesting about you, I almost wonder if you got like this psychic capability, because clearly you didn't just get into this for your own amusement. I mean, you had visions of being successful.
But I have been amused.
Yes, indeed. But you never wanted to be anything other than a musician.
Maybe amused a few others. No, I told, when I was about 12 or 13, I've been playing guitar for about a year, and I told like my grandparents, because I don't think my parents had any real hopes of me going to college, but my grandparents were kind of like, or kind of being something more substantial in the world, like some kind of real professional. And I said, like, I'm not going to college, okay? I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to be a musician. That's what I'm going to do. So give up all hope of me being anything you think I'm going to be. That's not that.
Right.
So that's the way I set out. But it's been a journey, man. I mean, I've been, I lived in Nashville for 2 years and had a hit with Keith Urban. I was in Miami doing Lil Wayne stuff. I've been, all kinds of stuff. Like, to me, it's like I don't have a sort of the career that you can kind of pin down in that way, which is, right, maybe a good thing and maybe to my detriment, but that's just, I follow what I like at the time.
Right. Well, you definitely work with some of the biggest artists in the world, but the thing that's so wild to me is, like, I'll speak with guys in the hard rock, heavy metal scene, guys that have been career musicians and have been successful, but because of the kind of music that they produced and the various transitions and evolution of that genre of music over the years, it's been very challenging to be able to generate revenue. It hasn't necessarily been a profitable way to make a living. However, here you are operating in the hip hop world, which somehow, some way, has been, from my perspective, absolutely immune to the evolution and transitions of music over the years. Like for a lot of your hard rock heavy metal guys, like for the 90s, for instance, and you're a little bit younger than me, but I know you can still appreciate, like, 90s was the birth of grunge, you know?
Course.
And when grunge came in there, everything that we knew about the 80s, that hair metal, glam metal, that, you know,
Dude, I was there. I love all that stuff. I love Poison and Warren and all that shit, and I also love Nirvana and Pearl Jam, and it's all, to me. I love all that music. I honestly, like, I love the '80s glam metal. I love it.
Right
I wish
on.
it never went away.
Yep.
I don't know if you know. I got a real fun fact for you. You know who covered Let It Rock?
Of course.
LA Guns.
Right on, dude. Like,
right?
Actually, we've had the guitarist from LA Guns.
Now it all.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Yeah.
Ballad of Jane.
Right on, dude. Right on.
Yeah, I know all this shit, man. I love all kinds of music, and I honestly wish if I could get in a, time machine and control the world, I would have the late '80s continue forever.
Yeah, yeah. Ace Von Johnson, though. Ace Von Johnson's a friend of mine that I was thinking of, the guitarist for LA Guns, and he's great. But the point is, though, as much as you and I respect the fact that you wish that music, was still very powerful today, which I think it is. I think there is this renaissance that is going on. I do.
It's just not in the mainstream top 40 radio world.
Right.
That's all.
Whereas
but
hip-hop,
there's a lot that isn't.
But hip hop has been completely immune to it.
I know.
I mean,
crazy.
like every single artist that comes out, holy crap! I mean, it's insane.
Especially in the last 5 years, 7 years.
I mean, I'll just bring up one in particular because it just blows my mind. I'm not going to bash. I'm not going to do that, even though I probably have on social media.
Bash it up, man.
Cardi B, dude. Cardi B with a whop. I mean, like, oh my God. Like, I'm just looking at that. There's no way, for me as a father, and we're going to talk about parenthood in a little while, but for me as a parent, there is no way I want my kids listening to that. I don't want them listening to that.
Yeah.
But it's huge. I mean, huger than huge. I mean, she interviewed, Vice President of the United States, who's now running for president. I mean, she did an interview. I don't think she had any business doing an interview with him, but because of who she is, she got to do an interview with him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just the fact that genre of music is so powerful. Let me ask you, as a musician, and be honest, do you ever think that you would have reached the level of success that you reached without having kind of fused your style, your original style of music that, you were really into at the forefront into that hip hop rap world? Do you think you ever would have got what you got?
It's a great question, and it's one that I'm exploring a lot now moving forward, and the reason being because I am constantly on a journey musically. What's speaking to me now is late 70s, early 80s rock. That's what's speaking to me right now. And I'm talking not just about the actual music, I'm talking about that sonic template, that I'm playing around a little bit. I've been dropping some singles and some different styles, but what's speaking to me is live drums, not 808s. It's a certain kind of sound that it's a guitar, bass, drums, rock and roll sound, no keyboards, and it has a lot to do with what I'm shaping. I don't know. I'm started mixing my own records, and I'm kind of working with filling up sound with less elements instead of the way I used to, which was stacking so much. And filling it up with just guitar and bass and drums and a vocal and focusing on the quality of the song instead of a lot of production elements. Having said all that, it's a really good question. Moving forward, I want to continue to do that. And the question is, will it be successful the same way? And I don't know. But I'm not so sure that combining rock and hip hop right now will be successful either. I think hip hop is completely, it's 808s. It's a different animal than what it was. It's a different thing. And I don't think me as a white male, the way I was back then, which was in a time when it was sort of like an openness to it and you could kind of fuse parts like that. I don't know if it would work the same way, but I also believe in the power of a song. And I believe if you have a great song, I'm not just talking about a great song like you wrote a song and your friends say it's great. I'm talking about the kind of song that comes around like once a year and just blows the fuck up because it's so identifiable and so good, and it's an outlier and it's not repeatable, and it's so big that you forget about the artist because it's just so good you don't even care about the artist. And those to me are like, that's the wild card I always play.
Right on.
Because I had that once with Let It Rock. That was one of those songs. Oh, we don't care about Kevin Rowe. Oh, it's a song so big, Let It Rock, Let It Rock. They used to tell me at the label, the song's bigger than you are, man. I'm like, so what the fuck else you got going on here that like is even big at all? Like, you know what I mean? Other than, you know, your staple artist, like wouldn't you want to nurture that more? Wouldn't you want to nurture that artist that has that big song more, instead of looking at it like, oh, the song's just so big? So having said that, the answer is I don't know. I can tell you this: when I made that first album, I had something in mind where I was coming from being in the studio with those hip hop artists, and I could kind of I don't know how to describe it, synthesize what I was seeing there into my history, which is growing up more as a guitar player and songwriting and just broader musical vision. And then the timing of also ushering that back into the hip hop world, because if I had gone to like a rock A&R person at a label, they probably would have been like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, dude, it's not rock, it's not hip hop. I don't know. And thing, is it alternative? What do we do? I don't know. I'll forget it. So you know, what box does that go in? So, and that's the beauty of a situation like an early Cash Money situation, or where they don't care. They don't know. They just they fuck with it. They fuck with the music. They like the music. That's all they need to know. And they had the power at the time to say, we believe in this, and that's what it is. And then we put Wayne on it as that co-sign, obviously. And Wayne was someone I wanted to work with, obviously, going into that situation. I've always been a fan, and now it was like he was suddenly there and available to do it because we were going to be on the same label. And so having said all that, you know, and then mixed with the fact that at the time, like, I was fucking broke, and I was like, I want to like, no, it wasn't like, it's not like I want to go be rich and famous. People are like, oh, well,
right.
you know, I would do that too if I could just be rich and famous. You think it's that fucking easy? You think it's that easy to just go be Cardi B like that? Yeah. No, it's not. No, you think you're just going to, you know, it's like people would be like, you know, people say shit like, oh, well, if I cared about money, I would just go work on Wall Street. Okay, really? You're just going to go get a job on Wall Street and be a billionaire? Like, you know, it doesn't work like that. Right. It's actually much fucking harder than you think. Yeah. All this stuff, all these holes are very small to get through. And it's a mixture of timing and drive and showing up and being the right person at the right time with the right music, being ready. You know what I mean? You got to be ready. Most people aren't ready. Most people don't even show up, and most people aren't persistent. So they don't get in there, and they just sit in their mother's basement and say, you know, okay, well, you know, like I would do that too if I cared about money, if I wanted to be rich. So having said all that, I was focused. I was combining my art, combining my vision. I wanted to say something through the music. I felt like I had a message on that album. And I wanted to make some shit happen with my life. So it was all those kind of things happening at one time, which creates that snowball effect, and that creates that level of success at that time.
I love seeing this business singer, songwriter side of you, Kevin. There is definitely a lot more to you than just your music, and I respect that. I respect that a ton. You bring up some really interesting things. You kind of phrased it a different way than what I'm thinking, but it's all really the same thing, and that is, it's funny, like with social media, there's this algorithm. You always hear the term algorithm, you know, and then there's those things that are trending or not trending as a result of that algorithm. You know, what is going to grab everybody's attention? And it's really hard to kind of get a gauge on, well, what is this algorithm actually doing? And I find that, like you were saying, if anyone could make a great song, you know, and make it huge, like if it was that easy, everyone would do it, right? Of course.
Right.
And what makes it huge versus what doesn't make it huge is somewhat of a quandary.
It is a quandary. It's the quandary of our generation, and it's the quandary of success, and it's the quandary of everything I see on social media, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or whatever. And everyone wants to be successful, and everyone's trying to figure it out or has figured out. And if they have, they're trying to teach you and get paid for it. That's what the fuck is going on in the world right now. That is our culture. It's not a rock and roll culture. It's
Right.
not I don't give a fuck culture. It's not a drug culture. It's a success culture. Okay.
Right.
It's how do I figure my life out and make money so that my friends are impressed. That's the negative side of it. And the positive side of it is how do I, how do I get on? How do I want to be, do something in the world and be valid? So having said all that, the answer is if you look at all those platforms, yes, there's quality, there's quantity, there's everything. But the thing is, it's really all about consistency. Okay. So you don't have to have that great song as much as you had to. All you have to do is show up, and you have to show up as much or more than anyone else. And you have to be decent. Okay. You don't have to be good anymore. Here's the thing, like back in the day, even when I started out as a producer, like being, a successful quote unquote producer, we'd write a song, go, oh my God, it's a fucking hit. I mean, and you're calling up the labels and here you go, here's this hit. Oh, for so-and-so, for this artist, for whatever it may be. I'm not sure that matters as much anymore, man. I don't think it does. I don't know if one song, unless it is that song, that magical thing that just comes out of nowhere, I don't know if a hit song is as identifiable as it used to be. And definitely not in hip hop. I listen to these records, I'm like, I don't fucking know. Back in the day, like you heard it, you could hear a hit, like it was a hit. It made you move. It was a thing. It was a vibe. The hook was there. It was substantial. It was very, now it's just like, whatever. It's that kind of shit. So it's a different thing. Not all of it, but most of it. So,
well, everything's so saturated. Everything's so saturated now.
It is saturated, and that's the crazy part. And the cost of the barrier of entry, the cost of entry is very low. I mean, I can make a record by the time you edit this interview, I can make a record for you, and it will sound finished, right?
I believe.
And guess what? Most other people can too. So I'm not. So it's not that hard to do. You pull your loops off Splice, you throw some shit in. If you're a player and you actually want to play, you're not playing a record. You're playing 4 bars and mumbling over it. That's the urban world. But even still, I can write a song in 10 minutes. Just many people can, and you can put it out. And there's no one telling you can't. So that's the great part of it. You're not waiting for the label to say you're good enough, you're okay. You're not waiting for the seal of approval. But the flip side is that it's a lot of fucking people doing it, and they're putting a lot of shit out. So you've got to be consistent. You got to keep doing it, and you got to get better at it, I think. But I think you can do it now by yourself, whereas you could not before. But you just have to be better, and you have to be more consistent. And that's hard because you can't like go make a record and then like go to the fucking Bahamas and hang out for 2 years and watch its success. Like you got to like put in the work every day. I didn't have to do that when I was starting. I didn't have to post something or tweet something every day.
Right on. So everybody, what you just heard right now is what's going to be coming out in 2021. Yeah, what you just heard is coming out in 2021. It's a new book called The Philosophies of Music Success by Kevin Rudolf. So
I can school anybody. I've been through this shit. I've been a everything, a label, a publisher, an artist, producer, songwriter. I've been flipped to every side of this whole thing, and like I said, the great part is you can do it yourself. Yeah. It's just a lot of work. You got to really want it. You got to show up every fucking day.
Have you ever written a book?
I haven't, but I'm working on something that it's sort of like a hybrid memoir novel that I kind of put aside for the last few months, but I have been writing it.
Well, you've got a lot of really good knowledge because like you were just indicating, you're not just a singer-songwriter. You've been involved so productively in so many different elements of the business, as a producer, as a label, and all these other things that you've done. So I think that the insight that you have, because we live in a world and an industry because of technology and the 24/7 news cycle, and things are so easy to do. Quality, however, is not. Quality is something that's very special.
Here's the crazy part about quality. Sorry to interrupt you, but I have to say this.
Do it.
The thing about quality is things at a base level are higher quality than they've ever been. Here's what I mean. Back in the day when I was a kid, someone would bring you a demo of their cousins, brothers, nieces, nephews, sons, kid, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And you listen, and it was fucking horrible. It was horrible.
Right.
But now that person has autotune, that person has logic and compression and EQ and can put a limiter on it, make it sound big and bright and amazing and sound like a record, and can check enough boxes where it sounds professional, even if they are terrible. So the shitty stuff is way better than it was.
Sure.
But there's also, because people aren't working as hard to create something of import, shall we say, I think the greatest stuff is way worse than it used to be. You know what I mean?
I do.
It's almost gone like this. It's almost compressed itself, where the bad stuff is better than it was, and the great stuff is way worse than it was in the past. So it's just a lot in the middle, and that's what creates the saturation. But here's the cool part: if you wanted to, at any age, at any time, and you wanted to start that hair metal band that's like, it sounds exactly like Warrant and Poison and all that stuff or whatever, you could fucking do that right now. And guess what? There'd be no label to tell you shit. They can't tell you anything. When you go, that's not happening anymore. So what? If you got like 5,000 real fans, you're in business, baby.
Yeah. No, that's true. I think a lot of it does still come down to the songwriting skills, because it takes a special person to write those words that are going to resonate with the audience. It has to be more than just a cool beat,
Right. But you can dress it up enough for people don't know.
Well, and
not for the real fans, not for the real shit. I'm just saying we're talking about the general public stuff in terms of that door, getting in and having something that sounds good.
Sure. Man, you got a lot of knowledge, man, and I wouldn't have expected anything less. I want to touch on some of your new stuff that you've got going on, because I think it's really interesting, and obviously it's some of the newer things that you're working on are different than things that you've done earlier in your career. And but one of the things that's been a constant that I think is really cool, one of the things I think is really special, is this relationship that you've had with Lil Wayne. How special has that relationship been to you? Not just from a business perspective. Obviously, he's been big on that front, but just on a personal side of things, because you've had a lot of collaborations together.
Yeah, it's funny. He's a very. You want to talk about like rock stars and the stuff that you grew up on. He really does. Out of anyone that I've ever worked with or met, he really embodies that. Like, when he's in the room, you feel it. You feel that, like, your energy goes up. Like, you feel like, whoa, like, this motherfucker, he's real. And it's not just because of he's Lil Wayne. He's like transcended energy wise into a different dimension. Like, he really is that. He will not disappoint you. And we've all worked with people who, you're like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, they're whatever. But he's not. He's the real deal. So every time I'm in the room with him, I always feel that lift, that energy, and I always feel like it is some kind of destiny when we do something together. It sounds strange to say, but I do feel that. It's like something in another dimension enters this dimension when we've done things in the past. So that's the best way I can describe it, and those things have proven to be successful, most of them. So I feel lucky, honestly. I feel lucky.
Right on. One of the things I love about him is he is that classic, do not judge a book by its cover. Let alone the stuff that he's done. But I mean, I'd be venturing to guess, I swear, because I've watched numerous interviews that he's done. Yeah. I'll bet he's got an IQ like well over 140. Like, he is deep. He is cerebral. The
He is.
way he articulates things, the things that he talks about, the subject matters that he dissects, and the way he dissects them, it's just like, whew, mind blow, man. Like, he's a very intelligent man.
He's very intelligent, and he puts the work in to be that. I think I don't mean, I mean, he naturally is that, but he's a thinker. You know, he's a smart guy. He's not just he's not what you think. Most people aren't what you think. Actually, most people that you think you know, that you've been a fan of their music or not, they're not what you think. You know, some of the softer artists I may have worked with are bad motherfuckers, you know what I mean? And some of the people that appear, whatever, a little bit more, I don't know, tougher, they're not. So you never know who you're getting.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that he's the realest of them, for sure.
Right on. Well, I mean, I can attest to, you know, getting a lot more out of a certain experience when you meet someone. You know, it's like not necessarily what you expected, you know, like this conversation, for instance. You know, I mean, you and I had never met before. Not that I had any necessarily preconceived notions about who you were or what you were all about, but you know, definitely
a lot of people do. A lot of people do. When I do interviews, I feel like 3/4 of any interview I do is unwinding their perception of me.
Really? That's wild. That's wild.
Well, they think Cash Money, rock rap, white guy, anything, plays guitar. I'm like, what do you think I like? That's not me at all. Like, and the funny thing is, it's not. That's not me. That's not true. It is me. It is a projection of me. Right. But and I'm not here to unveil myself for the world. That's not what I'm saying. But a lot of it, just the questions and the ideas just come from that, and I'm like, who the fuck do you think I am? Like,
right.
It's just so crazy.
Yeah.
But that's how people are. You know?
No, right on. Well, you know, you and I could talk for a very long time without a doubt, Kevin. But you know, I don't want to keep you too long because clearly you have better things to do with your day than talk to me all day. But well, thank you, man. Thank you. But as a parent, which I am, you know, I have my children, and they are my entire world. You know, I mean, I really do live for them. One of the things I think is very cool about you, and you know, and again, you and I never met before today, but just checking you out on social media and whatnot, obviously your world has changed a heck of a lot since you, quote unquote, made it big. You know, you're a father now.
I am.
You know, and I would imagine that probably changed your life quite a bit, huh?
It's definitely it's an amazing experience. You know, I have he's such a cool kid. He's so fun, and it's still challenging a lot of the time too. So it's a lot of I think a lot of stuff that you grew up with tends to come back when you have a kid. You know, I think part of it is like, I feel like I'm like a walking cliche. I'm like, get out of the car. I'm like, what the fuck am I? I feel like, you know, I'm like American 1950s dad. Like, if you do that one more, I'm like, God, shut up. What am I saying? Like, it's so funny. You catch yourself saying stuff like that. And so it's such a learning experience and thinking about things that were said to me as a kid, and I try to be so like aware of it, and then sometimes I'll just slip up, you know what I mean? And I'll just sound like that dad, and I want to be cool dad, but you can't be cool dad all the time. You got to be, because you know, if you don't lay down the law and stuff, it's a real challenge for me, especially as an artist. I kind of want to just be floaty and free and like, oh yeah, he'll be cool because I'm cool, but it doesn't work like that. They need structure. But he's a beautiful, beautiful boy, and he's so smart, and he's so cool, and it's been a trip, man.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a fun journey. You know, one of the things I'm curious about, because with all the musicians I've talked to that are parents that have kids, I like to ask them, like, what would you think if your kid ended up, you know, saying, hey, I want to be a musician, and that's all I want to be. I want to work in the music industry.
Anything to get him off that iPad, man. Shit. You want to be, I say, listen, you want to be a musician, whatever you want to do, as long as it doesn't involve the iPad, we're good.
I'm telling you, man. Yeah.
I would love it. I think it's a better time than ever to be a musician.
Okay.
Number one, you've got more education than ever. Okay, like I mean, you could turn on YouTube. I turn on YouTube and learn shit. You know what I mean?
Right
It's
on.
amazing what's out there. The information on all the way from actual playing to recording to engineering to mixing to equipment. I mean, all these things which can take years to grow into and figure out what's working for you, you can find out on YouTube in 12 and a half minutes. But aside from that, I think you can do it yourself. I think you can build something. You can build a real fan base. You don't need to go through a lot of the stuff and the managers and the lawyers and the thing and the business and the in and the out and the contracts and the deals and all that stuff is like, that's the stuff that gets taxing in a way, you know. I think
Right.
the actual music itself is so much fun, and it's so much fun to have this equipment now that I didn't have as a kid. I had my little like digital 8-track, 4-track thing, and I'm sitting there and I'm like going, why doesn't it sound like a record? I don't understand this.
Yeah,
Not
right,
realizing
right,
that,
right.
like, you know, you had an actual 2-inch in a studio and a Neve or an SSL in a studio that cost $10 million and all that stuff. And now you don't need any of that. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
to be able, like, even in my setup, whatever, which is very minimal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, just the fact that you can you don't need a Neve. You can get a plug and then models a Neve. You know, I mean,
Right.
you can. It's so much fun to make music right now, and it took me a while to kind of re-separate the business from the music. And a lot of the way that I'm doing that is just exploring artistically and trying. You know, I'm experimenting. I did like a record that sounds totally 80s. I did a record that sounds like this. I'm doing something that sounds like fully like the early Stones. You know what I mean? I mean,
Right on.
I'm playing around with it, and I'm refining and recentering, and some of those things I'm releasing, some of those things I'm not. But the exploration of sound and texture to me is what's like turning me on right now.
Right on. Well, yeah, and I guess, like you said, it's one thing to be working on the music side of things where, you know, let creativity kind of be your guide. You can go wherever you want to go with it because we have the technology on our
Right.
side, which is inexpensive and it's easily accessible, all that. But the business side is still maybe now more challenging than ever.
I
Just
don't agree with you at all.
illuminate me.
Okay, you'll be illuminated. Number one, there was no fucking way at all, other than selling CDs or tapes or vinyl, whatever the fuck, out of the back of your car, to have a career. Now, you can actually build up between your social media, your YouTube, your videos, all of these avenues. I'm not going to say it's going to happen overnight.
Right.
Don't think you're going to put one song out and the world goes, oh my God, you're amazing. Not going to happen.
Right.
But if you are consistent and you have a vision, visually, musically, you have a message, you have something you're putting forth into the world and connecting with a fan base, you can find that fan base. And you may not become a multimillionaire off it, but you can make a very solid living doing it and doing it the way you want, without taking shit from anybody, without anyone telling you what to wear, how to stand, or who to be with, or what to, you know, and then wasting money on $200,000 videos and all that nonsense, which you don't need to do. You can get your iPhone, you can make a video. You can get your laptop and make a record. You can have Photoshop and you know, make a cover. So basically, you can put out everything that a major label is putting out into the world. The only thing which you'll probably not be able to get right away are those playlists. Obviously, radio, that ain't happening without a major label. Forget about that.
Right.
But, and you probably are not going to, you may have some success with like some kind of film licensing stuff if you get some independent agency and whatever, a publisher to handle that for you. Maybe, probably not. But aside from all that, you can actually develop a fan base. There's people on Spotify, man. They got fucking way more listeners than I do, and I've never heard of them. Tons of them. Never been on the radio.
Right.
And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. They're high mid-level artists,
Okay.
you know, that are having. They don't have hits necessarily. I don't even think they have any music that even sounds like a hit. It doesn't matter. They have a vibe, they have a thing, they have a sound, and they're connecting with people, and that's what it's about. And guess what? They wake up and do what they want every day. You know, they're not hustling bullshit all over the world and, you know, doing like all this, you know, a lot of promo stuff, which isn't as fun as maybe waking up in your own bed and like writing some songs. So,
Right.
so I see it as the best time ever to do it. And
Okay.
here's what I think. If you want to be Lady Gaga, yeah, it's harder right now because like unless you're on a major label, it's just not going to happen. You will not be put in front of enough people. But do you want to be that anyway? No. Like maybe. I mean, that's cool, but like I want my own life. Like I don't want to be that famous.
You are the first musician, Kevin, that I have ever heard articulate that side of it before. Like you clearly embrace the digital side just from a pure creative standpoint. You know, it's and kind of like what you were talking about earlier, content, content, content. You know, get it out there. You know, I mean, unless you show up to the party, you're never gonna know. You know,
And you can show up as much as you want.
Right.
Back in the day, like when I was on Universal through Cash Money, I mean, we did like a photo shoot. You had 4 good photos from it, and that's all people saw you all year. Like I was doing some cool ass shit back then. I don't have pictures of it, but I was doing cool shit with cool people. I'd be in the studio with Wayne, with Nas, with people, with things. I mean, all the way to hanging out with Daryl Hall and his show, and like I mean, all kinds of musicians and people. I mean, I was having lunch with Al Di Meola, one of the best jazz guitar players of all time. You know, I don't have pictures. I could have been taking pictures and showing the world all that stuff. That's cool shit.
Yeah.
But we weren't doing it back then. And here's the beauty of it, is that what happens sometimes in the major label world is that you sort of get put forth as an artist. Like I said, there was this stigma of he's a white guy in Cash Money. It's a rock rap thing. But I was doing so many other things and different people in different situations that I thought were really interesting, and the world just didn't get to see it. I could have actually used that. If I care about my image like that, I could have been using that to shape people's perception of me, which I didn't have those tools back then.
Right on.
And the beauty of it is you don't even really have to shape people's perception. You can just be yourself, be cool ass motherfucker, and like people like I like him, he's cool, or I like her, or whatever it is, you know. I think you can be more yourself. You can put it all out there, and you're more open to criticism in a way, but that goes with the territory anyway.
I got to tell you, Kevin, I did not expect this much education. I did not expect to learn as much just about life and the business and I expected to learn a little something new about you, but I did not expect to learn as much as I have in the course of this conversation. You're something, man. You could be. Man,
listen,
do you have like? You deserve an honorary PhD. Like seriously, a doctorate or something.
It's just basic shit, man. You know, I mean, if I was like 12 or 15 or 17 or 20, whatever, you know, coming up in the world age, you get a laptop, you get Photoshop, you get Premiere. Okay, you can edit the videos, like $50 a month for the whole thing. You get Logic or some software, $200, whatever it may be. You get a microphone and you get a cheap camera. If you have all those things, you can make any record, video, anything you want in art, anything.
Man, you are very optimistic. See, I'm a little more cynical when it comes to all that, just because everything is so easy, whereas you see all the benefits of that. You know, as well, not just myself, but a lot of people that I've talked to have kind of seen like more of the negative side of that. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know where that stems from.
Well, it comes from the way you're choosing to see it, and I can understand that because I've been on the negative tip at times, you know, looking at things and go, oh, it's not what it used to be. What do I just put my stuff on YouTube? Who cares? Like, yeah, it's in my opinion, like growing up from my generation, it's way fucking cooler to be on MTV than it is to be on YouTube. It just is. Right. Like when my shit was on MTV, I was like, fuck, I'm on MTV. Man, I was like, I mean, I don't even like that pop shit, but I was like one of the last artists on TRL. Like I was fucking cool. I watched it as a kid, right? And when you're on YouTube, it's like, oh yeah, they threw my video up on YouTube too. It's got like, yeah, whatever, it's cool. Like you don't, because you're not. But kids now, they grow up and they look at YouTubers like that's like
oh yeah,
fucking Tom Cruise and George Clooney. Like those are the stars. Will Smith. Like that's how they look at YouTubers. Like a gamer on YouTube is
I know.
Is like a movie star to them, right?
Yeah.
So that you just got to realize that's what's going on. And the beauty of it is, I mean, you could start something and you could. I mean, I was like, man, YouTube is so interesting. People look at YouTube like it's either educational or they're playing games or they're teaching someone something or it's skill based or they're like opening a box of a camera and like it's a gazillion views because everyone wants to buy the camera or doesn't. all those things, you know, or a music video, whatever it may be. But you could do anything on there, right? You could do performance art on there. Like I could put on a fucking Darth Vader mask and like get a Darth Vader sound and walk around my house and film it and give orders to the fucking refrigerator. I could do whatever the fuck I want and be hilarious, or not, or be stupid. Like I grew up in New York, right? So you'd all like we watched you like go to like performance art things, right? Like you'd see people doing like just fucking weird shit, like weird shit. You go to the Lower East Side, someone would be like, I don't know, holding a candle on their head for like 5 minutes and spinning around. Like you could film that. That would be interesting. It may not work, but my point is it's open season and you can do whatever you want. And as long as you don't care what people think of you, you can go forever.
Right on. So everybody watching right now, you know, I'm Scotty J here with Kevin Rudolf, and he is the man whose glass is half full, whereas mine is half empty.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing. Everybody knows that. Kind of, sort of, not really. But all that being said, okay, so everyone knows you, Kevin, for all the music, all the awesome music that you've done for the last 20 years. I can't even believe it's been that long. But as far as what we have going on moving forward, I've seen Watch Me Now, Are We Having Fun? So this is some of the newer stuff that you've put out recently. What else can people be looking for coming out of the world of Kevin Rudolf?
Honestly, I don't even like. I'm bored with all those records. I don't even like them. You know what I mean? They're just like experiments that I made. I kind of love everything I'm doing, and I kind of don't like anything I'm doing. So I'm just looking at it like the way I just said. Like I'm just gonna throw some things out while I'm exploring. And like I have a record like I love that I'm working on right now. I don't know if I'm gonna love it when it's done, but
okay. All right.
But I used to hate my first album, then I hated my second album, so I also go through phases. Like
I hate my platinum albums. Yes.
No, you know what I'm saying. Like, you know, it's not even like. Listen, it's not even me. I heard you, fucking Bono and The Edge. They hate the U2 albums. Like, so
that's
who knows?
Crazy, man.
I mean,
that's crazy.
It's all part of the artistic process. Like, I love what I'm putting out, but at the same time, I just feel like I'm like reaching, and there's something else that's around the corner that I feel like is even better and going further, and you know. So I'm so follow me, watch me play.
Right on. Well, because you've, you know, really talked at length about, you know, content, you know, and technology.
I don't like that word, content. It's like okay, here's my stuff. I'm selling this guitar. Okay, here's the thing I'm selling.
Okay, bad word. Music.
I don't like that word because to me, like that's the word. Like I like the idea of just making things. Like I don't like content, and that's what slows me down sometimes on social media, because I'm like, okay, I put out a song, now I gotta put an acoustic version, now I gotta put a video, I gotta find every way of selling this song, and I don't like doing that because it just feels like dishonest.
Well, that's where I was going. That's where I was going with this. That's where I was going with this, because obviously, you know, you're a man who embraces technology and the ability to be able to put together an amazing product and making it immediately available. So for you, as a singer-songwriter, where do you stand on the whole idea of just putting out singles versus an EP versus an LP? Where do you stand on that? Like, do you believe in putting out
I'll tell you what I think you should do.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what I do. And I'm not following what I should do. Because I'm you know, I'm like exploring. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
My exploration is more internal right now. I'm not posting every idea I make every day.
Okay.
But I think what you should do is you should treat your Spotify page like an Instagram. I literally think you should fucking make something and put it out. Should you perfect it? Maybe, maybe not. Could it be better? Maybe. Could it get worse? Maybe. But I think you should just fucking plaster your shit everywhere and do it as frequently as possible, because you never know what's going to happen. And you never know what people like. And if you're good, here's an interesting concept for you, okay? If you're really good at what you do, your job's to get out of your own way, okay? You got to like work faster, and you got to have more fun, and you got to keep your vibration up and get your stuff out. If you suck and you're getting better, then you should still be doing it, because you need to improve and get feedback. So either way, the problem is that when you are really good and you're overthinking, like myself sometimes, or some friends of mine that I may know, and you think it could be better. Let me fix this, and you like every day it's like, oh my god, I landed on the style. Now it's the thing, and now oh no, I changed the drums, and it sounds really crazy, and you never really put it out, or you keep making it worse and worse and worse. That's the problem area. But other than that, you should just like make shit and just put it out. Who fucking cares? Like, we're not living in the era of I'm going to go perfect my masterpiece. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. If that's what's in your heart, yes, you should work to the best of your ability. I'm not saying make garbage, but I'm just saying it to shake you up. If you are one of those people that's holding yourself back, you should just treat it like an Instagram post. I wrote a song, guitar, bass, drums, whatever. Here it is. Mix it, done.
Content. I'm messing with you. So for everyone, Kevin, that wants to go check out everything that you have going on, is Spotify where you're living?
I'm living like everyone else on every platform, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's at Kevin Rudolf. On Spotify, it's Kevin Rudolf. On every other Apple Music, everything, Tidal, whatever, it's all Kevin Rudolf. YouTube, Kevin Rudolf.
All right. Now, is there anything big that people should be looking for, or are you kind of leaking things out in dribs and drabs?
Am I leaking things out in dribs and drabs? I think I'm going to compile like a lot of this stuff into an album very shortly.
Okay.
And there's some other things that are in progress that I won't mention yet because they haven't fully come to fruition. I don't like talking about things until they are locked in.
Right on.
So other than that, I'm going to be making some music. That's what I'm doing.
All right, cool. Anything? Any big collaborations? Anything more you're going to be doing?
Yeah,
with the
there are a couple things in the works. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, everybody, again, I am Scotty J. You're watching Rock Titan Live, and if you have enjoyed this podcast with Kevin Rudolf, which I have every confidence you have, just go out to youtube.com/Rock Titan, and yeah, we're going to be putting some stuff out on the rocktitan.tv website as well. Not .com, not .org, not .net. .tv. Rock Titan. Everything. Rock Titan. And Kevin, thank you so much, man. It's been awesome hanging out with you.
Yeah, sure, man. It's really fun. It's actually a really fun conversation.
Very illuminating. Very illuminating. Man. And you've taught me a lot, man. Book. You got to write that book, man. I think I will. You've got a lot to teach. You've got a lot to teach. I mean, truly, because it's a challenging time. It's a very challenging time we're in. And, again, I think there's a lot of people out there with talent, but they don't necessarily know what to do with it.
I mean, the talent part is just getting out of your own way, I mean, what's that saying? The problem with the world is that people who have something to say are afraid it's not good enough, and the people who have nothing to say just keep running their mouths.
But what does that mean? What does that actually mean?
What it means is people often, not all the time, but often people with talent who are really good at what they do are insecure, and they're afraid to put it out there. And the people who have no talent have no shame. And I can understand that too. Sometimes, with music, I've been doing music forever. The thing, it's so much passion involved. It's so deep and heavy for me, right? But the flip side is, like, if I went into, for example, like writing a novel or something like that, I'd be like, yo, check it out. I wrote 3 pages. It's sick, right? Because I don't know. I've never been told no, right? I've never been told no. There's no one saying, the thing is that a lot of people have done that, and this, you have all those negative voices. So the thing is, if you are talented, you've probably been doing it for a while, and you probably do have some negative voices, which you have to drown out, and you have to just put your stuff out and have fun. And none of this shit is that serious, right? We're talking about, like, making music and putting it out and people liking it or not. Like, it's not that heavy.
Right on. Well, everyone, you heard it here from Kevin Rudolf. And I'm Scotty J. You're watching Rock Titan Live. We're out.
Peace.